Hello dear students, this is me, your teacher Farhad. Welcome to my channel FMMT Medical Tutorial. Today the topic which I have selected for you guys to teach you is necrosis. Okay dear students, so what is the outline of my topic? First, dear students, I will teach you that what is necrosis actually. Then the introduction of necrosis, but keep in mind my dear students that in introduction of necrosis I will give you the main concept of necrosis, okay, and then the etiology of necrosis, that actually what causes the necrosis to occur. Okay, so dear students, come to know each of these steps one by one. So dear students, let's have the very first and easy concept about necrosis. Dear students, see on the slide actually that what is there. One is cell death, another one is cell injury or cellular injury, and then apoptosis is there and necrosis. Okay, what is cell death actually? Cell death simply mean the death of your cell, mean when your cell are no more living. But cellular injury means the damage of any part of your cell, mean when any part of your cell get damaged by any internal or external factor, that is nothing but your cellular injury. Okay, so when cellular injury occur, so that will either leads to the process of cell death called apoptosis or the process of cell death called necrosis. So it means that both apoptosis and necrosis are actually the processes which actually finally leads to the death of your cells. But keep in mind, my dear students, both apoptosis and necrosis processes, they are quite different from one another. So how? Let's come to know about these. Apoptosis is actually the natural and programmed death of the cell, but on other hand, necrosis is the accidental and unprogrammed death of the cell. It means that apoptosis is actually under the genetic control of the cell, but on other hand, necrosis is not in the control of its own gene or genetic. Both apoptosis and necrosis are the words of Greek language actually, but the word apoptosis means the falling of leaves from tree, and the Greek word necrosis mean simply the dead. Okay, apoptosis is also called as cell suicide. It is called as cell suicide because the own genes or genetic material of the cells play the major role in this type of cell death to occur. But on other hand, in necrosis process, the own genes or genetic material does not play any major role to kill or cause death to the cell. Then how death will occur to the cells in the process called necrosis? Actually, in the process of necrosis, external factors will come and that will cause actually death to the cells. So that is why we also called the process of necrosis murder of the cell or cell murder. The word apoptosis refers to the normal process or phenomenon which is very important for your normal growth or development, but while necrosis does not refers to the normal process or phenomenon. Actually, it refers to the abnormal process. Okay. So dear students, now let's come to know about the main topic of our discussion, necrosis. Okay dear students, and the previous slide I actually told you that the word necrosis has been taken from a Greek word which means dead. Okay. In the previous slide, my dear students, I told you that necrosis is also called as cell murder. But why we actually called it cell murder? Actually, extracellular factors or external events or factors are involved to kill the cell. So that is why it is also called cell murder. And because of this fact, we can also call that necrosis is always pathological, mean always external factors or events will come and will cause death to the cells. Now, dear students, come to know about the definitions of necrosis. Necrosis is the uncontrolled and unprogrammed death of the cell. What does it mean actually? It means that in necrosis process, the genes or genetic material of the cell will neither have the power to control the cell death to occur or to prevent it. But in the given definition, my dear students, the word unprogrammed mean that there is a programming system, normal programming system, for the normal death of the cell. But actually in necrosis, that normal programming system does not activate to kill, to cause death to the cell. Actually, unprogrammingly, death comes to the cell from external factors. Okay, that is why it is unprogrammed death of the cell. So repeat the definition. Necrosis is the uncontrolled and unprogrammed death of the cell. Now the second definition of necrosis. So cell death due to the unexpected and accidental damage to the cell is also called as necrosis. What does it mean actually? It means that when accidental and unexpected damage to your cell occur and that lead to the death of that cell, so we will call that actually necrosis. Now, dear students, let's have some important concepts about necrosis. Note that in necrosis process, there will always be cell membrane disruption. It means that always when there is necrosis, there will always be the damage of cell membrane to the cell. And keep in mind, my dear students, that the disruption of cell membrane actually will lead to the swelling of that cell, mean that cell will actually swell up. When disruption of the cell membrane occur, the fluid present in the extracellular space and the cation ion will jump into the intracellular space, and that will cause actually the swelling of that cell. The word necrosis also refers to a series of morphological changes and the cell actually which leads to the cell death at the end. The meaning or explanation of it is quite simple, that actually necrosis refers to a series or set of morphological changes actually which takes place in the cell, which finally leads to the death of that cell. Usually, dear students, large number of cells will undergo the process of necrosis. And the necrosis process, mostly the cell are passive, mean not active, okay, so that to prevent themselves from death. Keep in mind, my dear students, that after the cell death, the harmful chemical substances are released from the dead cell, which actually cause the inflammation and damage to the nearby tissue. Now, dear students, come to know about the etiology of necrosis. The word etiology means the study of cause of the disease. So, etiology of necrosis means that actually what caused the necrosis to occur. So, there are many causes of necrosis, but actually I have written few of them, okay? Cellular injury, which I mentioned on the first slide, that actually cellular injury either will lead to the process called apoptosis or necrosis, okay? So cellular injury actually it also cause necrosis. When cellular injury or lethal cell injury occur to the cell, that will cause necrosis. Here the word lethal cell injury means the irreversible cell injury or the severe type of cell injury, okay? And the infection actually can also cause cell death. Inflammation actually can also cause cell death, or specifically necrosis type of cell death. And cancer, actually this can also come in the etiology of necrosis. Dear students, in short, I would like to say that necrosis can be caused by both physical and chemical events such as heat, radiation, trauma, exposure to toxin, and hypoxia, etc. So, dear students, this was the end of your topic, necrosis. Dear students, keep in mind that necrosis is not a small topic, so that I would have taught you in a single lecture. If you really want to know about it more, so you must subscribe my channel and do comment on my this video, so that I make more videos on it, okay? And one thing more, dear students, this video was demanded by one of my special students. So now, dear students, it's the time to say goodbye to you. So goodbye, dear students, and have a nice day.